Thanks for tuning in to the Football Talk Squadron. I'm Dutch.
And I'm Pops.
And welcome back to our post-conference championship. This is our Super Bowl preview episode. We are going to get into the conference championships up front, though. I will say it all just to throw some more spears at the Cowboys. Out of the NFC, they're now the longest team without an appearance in a conference championship game after Washington got in, but still, I thought it was going to be closer. Did you see that just sort of beating occurring, or
knowing who Dan Quinn is and his specialties, primarily defense? Absolutely not. And then Saquon just did Saquon things, and I mean it was unreal.
Yeah, I know that through the first few weeks of the playoffs, I feel like, especially for the Commanders, it reared its ugly head. That if you turn the ball over in the playoffs, dude, you can forget it.
Yeah,
it's hard to beat a team when you have turnovers.
And I want to go back to the kickoff when he got hit and he fumbled it. Like, go back and this is all just adding fuel to the fire of why guys actually prime the footballs before you play with them. If you look at that ball, it was brand spanking new. Like, it was red. That was the color of it. And then you look at the actual game ball that everybody else is using, and it was brown. Obviously kickers using different balls, but hey, that ball came out of his hands, like it had grease on it, and it was just a brand new ball, and he couldn't hold on to it. And
brand new football is picking up petroleum jelly. Like, it is just slick. It's not difficult.
And I noticed that because I was like, I could see the logo clear as day on that, and sure enough, when they showed it again, it was a brand new ball.
I didn't even notice that. So, I mean, getting right into that game, you've got, I think in the first half alone, they either had 2 or 3 turnovers, and I remember in the second half, they added a couple more. The Commanders did that. Really, it shortened the field for the Eagles enough that the Eagles did a great job. I know one of the stats after the Commanders had turned it over for the 4th time is that the first 3 turnovers, the Eagles had gotten 21 points. And when me and my dad were talking during the game, and it's one of those ones that when you turn the ball over, because the first one they turned over was down on Eagles' side of the field, you turn it over and then immediately give up 6. That's a 14-point swing. In every single time they did that and took a possession away and scored, the Eagles really just, put the nails in the coffin early in that game, which I'm going to say it now, and we'll come back to it. That's how you beat the Chiefs. I'm going to go into this a little bit more with the Chiefs-Bills game, but like as a Super Bowl preview, like I was thinking about it. I get the media, and we're going to talk about the Bills game in terms of some of the penalties and stuff. I think the reason we have this emphasis on the penalties is because it's a 1-score game. Mm-hmm. And it just, it was this defining moment because the game was close. And I sit back and, like, if I want to, get away from the ref side of it, I just go, dude, if you give the Chiefs a 1-score game, go ahead and take my mortgage and put it on the Chiefs.
Checks.
They're going to win.
Well, what was the record? Andy Reid is now 17-1 in 1-score games in the playoffs or something like that, or just regular all time.
My question is, who do you lose to?
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Yeah. I sit back, and for the Eagles, if you can keep it a 2-score game, if you can make it to where it's like we can feed Saquon, we can feed our backs, and really, dude, you said it, you're texting the thread during the Chiefs game. It's like, I think the biggest thing for the Eagles, we know Saquon's going to run. I think their defense is pretty good.
Yeah. So
can you prepare for Spags and what he's going to do if you get behind the distance? Because in key moments of the game, dude, that dude wins. Like, I get they might have Mahomes, they have Kelsey. I think the most underrated person on their entire team. It's
Steve Spagnuolo.
Spagnolia.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you look at the last year we said it best was like, hey, Spags won them this Super Bowl, and now even more this year, like just all the turmoil. And I get it; they had injuries, this, that, the other. Mahomes really didn't have that good of a year statistically. Kelsey, looks like he's pulling a trailer. He been hanging out with Taylor too much in the offseason. Like, I mean, just being honest, like
He's just old.
well, I get that, but look at how he played last year. Last year, he was one of the top 5 tight ends in the league. So, I mean, dude, I just when I look at that and how they played this year, like their total offense was, I think, in the 20s. Ranked in the 20th, and in the whole NFL ranks. Like, it just goes to show that Spagnuolo is leading that defense and has a championship defense. Is all that I'm trying to say. I mean, look at that 4th down play. Josh Allen never saw that corner coming. He just didn't.
Yeah. Now, you talk about the Chiefs offense. Here's your question. We get a Super Bowl rematch.
Yeah.
When you compare this Eagles offense against the Eagles offense a few years ago, I get they have Saquon. Do you feel like it's still a better offense than what you saw a few years ago?
The biggest question mark is Jalen. Like, I mean, I hate to say it, but I mean that's the liability for the Eagles this game. Like, if Jalen chokes, like, dude, I don't know. And here's the thing: I was looking at this because I was like, how does Jalen beat the Chiefs? And Jalen is really good passing against man. He can destroy man coverage all day because think about it. You got Devontae who might be able to get around somebody. Then you got AJ who can just box anybody out and go get the ball. So it makes sense his numbers against man. Now, Chiefs play man. When Spags is bringing the house, he puts his guys on an island and they've got to protect. If they're bring a cover 0 blitz or anything like that, like those McDuffie and those guys have to lock down out there on their islands. And I don't know. Like, Jalen's got to be able to throw the ball, and that's how they win this game. Because we know the Saquons are going to eat, but also if I was a defensive coordinator, let it happen. I got to get this other guy to beat me.
Yeah, the other key player that, especially in the playoffs, I found has done exceptionally well for the Eagles.
Dallas Goedert.
Dude, my man has been tearing it up. I go back to the Rams game because the Rams-Eagles is where the Eagles look the most vulnerable. Don't get me wrong, Chris Jones can take over a game. I still felt like the Rams had the best defensive line outside of the Eagles in the playoffs.
100%.
Like, if the Chiefs sack Jalen 8 times like the Rams did, this game's like 56-14. Like, it's just a murder. If they can give Jalen time, if they can see, and I'm on the standpoint that I think that it's weird because I remember when Thurman Thomas with the Bills, Belichick was like, let him run.
Yeah.
We need him to run. I don't think you can do that with Saquon because I think that Saquon's going to score. Like, if you get him against a safety or against a corner, he's going just like he did against the Commanders and every other team. Dude, he's gone. If he hits the 3rd level, the chances of you catching him is not 50-50. Like, I think it's like a 20% chance that you're going to bring that dude down, especially in this type of game.
Mm-hmm.
But it goes back to that passing. Like, I'm in 100. It's why I sit back and I'm just like, man, I think the Chiefs are going to win this game just because I don't have that full faith in the Eagles offense. That being said, I sent you guys a text as soon as the Bills lost that game that I go, well, the one thing that we won't have to worry about the Eagles is getting 1 yard rushing on 4th and 1. Like, I want to go back. I know we're transitioning from the Eagles and Commanders to the Bills Chiefs. Dude, I thought about that today. You know what's easier than complaining about the first down? Picking up half a yard.
Yeah.
Dude, the Ravens line up a tight end, and what was nuts is like everyone knows that Josh Allen goes to the left.
Yeah.
Everyone knows. And I get that they were
saying it. Romo was saying it during the game.
Yeah. And I get that they were trying to catch the Chiefs like in their present defense and run the ball. It's like, dude, you had homeboy in the back or running back pushing. Like, you know who you needed? You needed that defensive tackle of theirs behind Josh Allen. That was like, what's his name?
Ed Oliver.
Ed Oliver, yes, guy from Houston. If like, hey, if he gets stuffed up, you hit him with everything you got, and your legs don't stop moving until you hear the referees pull you off of him. Like, I just in those type of moments, it's just those are the type of things that the Bills couldn't capitalize on. They the other thing is about the Bills Chiefs game. Question for you: whose defense is better, Eagles or Bills?
Eagles.
Yeah, and I don't think it's close.
No.
Like, we sort of knew all year that the Bills defense had problems. It wasn't great. I mean, I love the DeMar Hamlin story, but him as a safety, dude, liability that whole game.
Not cutting it.
Yeah.
The fact my guy's in a Guardian cap after his heart stopped, like, just call it quits, DeMar, please.
I felt bad for I mean, he was holding Kelsey, got ran over by Mahomes twice. It was just, I always just go back to the dude behind me. Can you imagine, like, if Brian Dawkins had a one-on-one shot against Mahomes?
You would die. Or, well, in today's world, he'd get flagged and be out of the league.
Mahomes would still be dead, but he would go to jail. Like, but if you think that, like, Dawkins, I just go back to this, like, old school like, I miss it. I miss this part of the game, and I think it's what fans are sort of mad about with Mahomes is, and I think Maul, he either said it in the text or it was just us talking. I think that once a quarterback leaves the pocket and you're running, you are no longer protected.
Yeah,
you are treated the same as a running back. Someone wants to hit you in the head. Sorry, dog. Like, get down. Protect your. We have all these rules for you when you're in the pocket, but the idea that you can just run down the field and you're still fully protected, dude, that stuff's got to go.
Well, and I mean, I wasn't here for the Houston game, when we recapped that, but it was that flop that he did in the Houston game. Like, he didn't even get touched, and he, did the whole LeBron, and it's just like, what are we doing? Like, at what point do we get at what point did we get here? And I hate to see it because Mahomes is such a good player. And it's funny because Josh Allen does the same exact thing because they try to get the call. So, I mean, there's the rules in place and they try to get the call. So, I mean, you can't blame them.
The Bills, I think the surprising part to the game is outside of Mahomes running, like, Kareem Hunt had some good runs, but at no point would I say the Chiefs have a good running game. Like, Pacheco clearly doesn't look 100%. Kareem was running better than
12
him.
yards.
Yeah. And now Worthy had a good game, which is comical when you think about why he had a good game. Mm-hmm. And it's because the Bills traded back with the Chiefs to give them the guy that, yes, he didn't directly beat them, but in terms of did he have a measurable impact in the game? 10,000%.
Yeah, I mean, he was the leading receiver.
Yeah.
He had 7 targets, caught 6 of them.
I also forgot this. Do you know who Kansas City traded up with to get Mahomes?
The Bills.
The Bills.
Yeah.
Dude. 0 for 2. Like, if the Chiefs, I saw some dude, he was talking about it after the game. He's like, dude, in the future, if the Chiefs call, that message goes direct to Rickroll. Like, sorry, dog, we ain't answering any more of your phone calls. Like, it's not going to happen. The other thing that happened in that game that I was surprised about was when the game mattered most, they would not give Dalvin Cook the football. Mm-hmm. He was not in the game.
You mean James Cook?
Yes, excuse me, James Cook. Because he ran the ball really well the first 3 quarters. And then there at the end, not a factor.
Well, and, the thing is that Josh Allen had just as many carries as James Cook. Like, what are we doing, Sean McDermott? Like, I understand that he ran multiple quarterback sneaks. I got that. But, he should have about 5 rushes, versus having 11, and James Cook has 13. Like you said it, he was getting 6.5 yards a pop average throughout the whole entire game. Why do you go away from that? The one thing that my coach always told me, and I get it, you'd have to convert on fourth down, but he's like, every play, I just need 3 yards. I just need 3 yards every single play, and we win this game. And that was a fundamental thing that I learned playing football. And when you got a guy averaging 6.5, what are you doing? Keep feeding the guy.
The Bills also showed a lack of, yet again, with the Coleman's a good receiver, but the idea that he was a first round game breaker, it wasn't there. And I don't think Worthy is either. I think Worthy has tremendous speed that makes him a matchup problem. And the second the Bills lost the corner to start the game, they just immediately started attacking Elam throughout the entire rest of the game. But when you look at that Chiefs offense, especially going into this matchup against the Eagles, my question for you is, outside of the position at tight end, what wide receiver really scares you for the Chiefs?
I mean, they haven't shown anything. I texted you guys watching the game. I was like, man, I forgot Juju even played for him. We just haven't seen these guys all year. Hollywood hasn't been healthy. Juju's been non-existent. D Hop, they just, in my opinion, haven't found a way to get him involved. And that's the honest God truth. So really, outside of that, like, you just can't let Worthy get behind you.
Yeah, that I sense the same thing, and I think that's where we draw this like comparison for why the Chiefs don't look great. It's just because at no point have you sat back and been like, oh, that's the guy they're going to find the ball to get to at the position of wide receiver. The crazy thing is they win games because they just sort of get it to everyone. It's never one guy truly dominant outside of Kelsey. I still think Kelsey is that guy that on 3rd and 6, my man just, and it's because he doesn't run a route. He just, if you play zone with Kelsey, you're going to lose.
Check.
Like, if you're going to do anything, like either Cooper DeJean or Mitchell or whoever your best coverage guy is for the Eagles, it's just, you're going to man on man Kelsey all day. I don't care if we're running zone. I don't care what we're doing. You're on him all day. Which, that goes my next question to you. It's delayed. We're 2 years removed from it. What's the factor of revenge play in this game for the Eagles? How do you see that going? Because it is a different team in terms of some of the pieces out there.
I mean, I think for me, it's the Sirianni has to keep his composure. Like in my opinion, as far because he's young, he gets the crowd going, but also at the same time, you could see where his emotions, maybe short man syndrome, whatever it may be, kind of sways their own destiny in a sense. I think he's got more experience, obviously, under his belt. Like, everybody was calling for his head after last year, and now here they are one season later in the Super Bowl. As far as the revenge factor goes, I think it's the whole mentality. If I'm Sirianni, like, hey, most of you guys on this team, we've been here. We were here just 2 seasons ago, and nothing's changed. This time we just got to take care of business. And let's be honest, I mean, they had the opportunity to do it the last time. I think this year they have more talent, and they've got the defense, in my opinion. Like Vic Fangio, I thought he was done when he went to Miami, and it just turned out that he was not able to implement his system down there. But ever since coming to Philly, man, this defense is, looking like the Bears did back in 2018.
So this is if the Eagles win, this is the guy on defense that Fangio has to count on to have a big game. And I'll reference it to someone else, and we'll see if you can get who both of these guys are. I got faith in you, though. Last time the Chiefs lost a Super Bowl against Tampa Bay, who was the defensive guy that wrecked shop?
Well, it was who is the linebacker?
Not, I'm thinking
yeah.
line.
Oh, it wasn't Vea, was it?
Yeah, it
Yeah,
was
Vita
Vita
Vea.
Vea. And it's just because if you get pressure up the middle, like Mahomes, that they did sort of what the Chiefs do to everyone else. If you can make it so he can't step up in the pocket, and your outside guys are like, I don't need you to get to him. I just need to make sure that he doesn't get out.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to win the game.
Yeah.
So I sit back and I go, if Jalen Carter can have the game, which is nuts to think that he fell in the draft 2 seasons ago to the Eagles, and this is the prime for me. He's the guy. Like if you want to wreck the Chiefs' offense, Carter has a huge game because on the opposite side, I still think Chris Jones is capable of being that guy, and
Oh,
that's why
100%.
he had such a big impact. Because if you let that type of dude come up the middle, it's game over. Like he that or at least that play's wrecked, and who knows what happens? Fumbles, loss of yards, turnovers. There's so many bad things that happen when that guy gets through. That's sort of my guy that for the Eagles, he has to have a good game. Now, I'll ask you the same question. Eagles defense, you can go with Carter, you can go with someone else. Who do you think for the Eagles is sort of the key on that defense? Or do you think it's Fangio?
I think for me it's Fangio. I think it's the chess game that him and Spagnuolo is going to play because you got to think you got two prolific offenses. Regardless of stats, like there's talent on both sides, and so it's going to be the chess match that we see between the two DCs because the offensive coordinators are going to be able to throw everything at them. And again, it's how well can Fangio do against Andy Reid calling his BS plays that he does and finding ways to get guys open. Like you look at last week, the Bills had the chance to stop the Chiefs, and they ran 3 slants that ended up rubbing all the defenders, and Perrine slipped out of the backfield and got a first down, and that ended the game. Like just little BS plays like that, uh, you know, what they're doing. They're setting the pick, but it still happens and they still execute it flawless. Like there's going to be those crazy motions. There's going to be, Worthy finding a way to slip underneath. Like for me, it's how I would say the secondary. How does the secondary step up and try to help out? Like think of a rookie guy like DeJean, like playing in a Super Bowl his rookie season.
And
Like
Mitchell.
yeah, and Mitchell, like, are these guys going to choke or, they're going to rise to the occasion? Which, I mean, this showed they've done pretty well so far, but now they're on the biggest stage and, we'll see if they start missing assignments or not.
I go back to on a crossing route. If you can get pressure, the only reason that crosser gets open is time.
Yeah, exactly.
To go from one side of the field to the other, you got to have a defensive line that just can't get home, which the Bills struggled mightily. Von Miller's not that guy anymore. Which killed the Bills. We talked about that going into the our preseason rankings. It's sort of why we didn't think the Bills were going to do great. They did way better than any of us thought.
100%.
But from a defensive lineman standpoint, they don't have a guy that gets after the quarterback. And the Eagles are young. Like Nolan Smith's another guy that's really been coming on for him. A guy that was hurt at Georgia, fell in the draft. They were able to pick him up and with Carter just later in the draft. It's just guys like that the Eagles have stacked that I sit back and I go, if they win, it's through that. Now, from the Chiefs standpoint, what are your keys to victory for the Chiefs, either offensive, defensively, or both?
I think, I mean, you're already hitting on it with Chris Jones, making the difference in the game. He made the difference in the game last year against the 49ers, like, and that man did not get enough credit for the work that he was doing. I mean, really all last season. You remember he sat out at the beginning of the season last year trying to get the extension, ended up breaking even, so it was almost pointless why he sat out. But I mean, he knows what he's worth to that team, and it showed. In the Super Bowl last year, it definitely showed. I think it's going to do the same this year. I mean, good night. This guy's crying every time he hears the national anthem. Like, this dude, he's with it. Like, big Chris Jones fan, Hail State, Uh, but as far as it goes, I mean, Spags is going to have to rattle Jalen. and he rattled Josh Allen. So you're going to tell me that Jalen's better than Josh Allen? I'm sorry, I just don't see it. So Jalen's got his work cut out for him, and I'm going to continue to say this game relies solely on how Jalen Hurts plays. I truly think Saquon could run for 200 yards and they don't win this game. Like, I'm just being honest. If Jalen has a terrible game and, he drops back and fumbles or throws picks, like, good luck.
I really can't say it any better because I'm in the same boat as you. I think the entire game comes down to Jalen Hurts.
Mm-hmm.
The defense could play exceptional. Saquon, just like you said, could run. He could run for 250. But if Jalen can't throw the football, if he can't make the plays in the game that you have to have a guy make a play, they're going to lose.
Yeah.
Plain and simple. Chiefs going to win. Now, what's nuts is, Maul asked before we got on this message, our preseason predictions. We all had, surprisingly enough, Chiefs versus Eagles before the season even began. Maul was the only guy that picked the Eagles. We both picked the Chiefs. I wish I had recorded the little snippet of it and sent it to Maul, because when he was asking about it, I asked him well, what do you think? And he was like, it's so hard to pick against Mahomes. And it's not just Mahomes, but it's the fact that they have Kelsey. It's the fact that they have Andy Reid. It's the fact that they have Spagnuolo on defense. That he's
I was hoping you were going to say Matt Nagy.
We all, dude, your conspiracy theory, the fact that no one else has said it, I'm 100% locked in on that.
Well,
that
look
Nagy
at how
calls the plays during the regular season and Reid takes over during postseason.
I mean, look how much Mahomes has been actually running in the playoffs, like actually designed runs. And it again, it's purely strategy, in my opinion, that they don't want to put stuff on tape.
Well, the Mahomes running, and yes, is it a threat? It always is when your quarterback takes off. But at the same time, it's also this is where I go back to the rules, and I think that's what a lot of fans are upset about. Is they are knowingly using a piece that they know benefits them more by putting him in the run situation, because they're betting on if there's any type of questionable hit on him, they're going to get 15 out of it. Yeah. So it's like, yeah, we are putting him in a necessary risk, but we also know that if he gets hit just right, we're going to get a flag. And then the other side of it is the defense knows that. So it's almost like they let up on no one has acted like Brian Dawkins. No one's flown in and just been like, not today. You're going to learn today. I haven't seen that. Maybe we'll see that out of the Eagles. Who knows?
And that's the thing is, if I was, and this is terrible for me to say, this sounds a little bit of, like the Saints back in the Bounty days, but I would be like, hey, I'll pay your fine. You hit them one time. I'll pay your fine. You want to do that? We're going to hit you, and see what happens.
Especially if it's early in the game.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, first half,
quarter. Yeah.
He takes off running, murder him. I don't care if he's 2 feet out of bounds. Fold him up into the bleachers. Just make sure he knows
somebody ejected.
Yeah, don't ever run that over here again. If you have to just go put in, you have to bring Brian Dawkins back and just pay him a 1-game salary. Be like, hey, I know you got it in you. We'll lose this roster spot for the rest of the game.
Hey, somebody who would be ready to get tossed? Dude, just set up Big Dom right next to the first down markers. Let Mahomes run that way, dude.
Dom ain't got that type of energy to him. I think the Eagles have a mean defense. The only thing I can think back to my dad saying is he was like, he got the sense out of their defense against the Commanders that they were ready to go and had that energy about them. But I didn't see that out of the offense. I think they have and I agree with you. I go back to what you said. It's I keep trying to give the Eagles a little bit more hope. Mm-hmm. Devontae's a great wide receiver.
Yeah.
AJ Brown, great. Dallas Goedert, great. you sit back and look at Saquon, I'd argue is that after what he's done in the playoffs, Saquon's the MVP.
100%.
Like,
No.
I think that's the clear.
Now
Instead of
he won't get it.
correct,
Yeah.
if
He might get offensive player like C-Mac did.
he should be NFL MVP. Like when you sit back and you think about Lamar and Josh Allen, and you think about what guy made the biggest difference on his team this year, dude. I mean, Saquon rushed for more yards than any Eagle in history. In history, like set the single game rushing record for the Eagles and also set the season rushing record for the Eagles. And if it wasn't for him, sitting on the bench for the last week, he would have surpassed Eric Dickerson.
Yeah, 100%.
But I go back to, I guess this is my question for you is how much, where's the line? You talked about 200 and they still lose. What's that line in your mind for what can Saquon do and they lose, but what's that threshold that he needs to hit? Maybe not just in terms of yards, but what's the thing that he needs to hit that you go, if I see that stat line and I don't even know what the score of the game, Eagles win?
I would say if I saw 20 rushes, 180 yards, 2 touchdowns, and then maybe 6 receptions for about 80 yards and another touchdown, just coming out of the backfield, I'd be like, they won the game and Saquon's the Super Bowl MVP.
I'm on the same boat, but for outside of the yards, I just think if he has 3 scores,
yeah.
If I looked at the stat line and he scored 3 times, I go, I think the Eagles have probably won this game. That's just because that means that you got it to the red zone enough, or he broke enough huge runs that he got out. And I go back to, I said this at the beginning when we were talking. I think the Eagles' key to victory, 2 scores.
Is that you need Carson Wentz to come in for the Chiefs?
Well, after that showing versus the Broncos, that's 100%. You can't be a 1-score game.
Oh.
You can't risk, which I know what the Bills are trying to do. They're up by 1 point. It's 4th and 1, half a yard, not even 4th and 1. It was like 4th and maybe a football. Yep. And they say, look, under no circumstance am I going to give this ball to Mahomes because I know what's about to happen if I do. And they let him go. They couldn't get the first down. I also sit back and some things, this is where I go back to your Sirianni point. I don't know if I text this to you or if I tell my dad. The Bills-Chiefs game. So first half, you kick an extra point. They jump off sides and you go, no, we're going to go for 2 now. Mm-hmm. And you don't get it. And then you go for 2 again later in the game, you don't get it. And it's like those 2 points, if you had them, instead of being up by 1, you're up by 3.
Yep.
Does that change whether you punt? Maybe not. But at the end of the day, now instead of feeling like you have to get a touchdown to tie, because the Chiefs, I don't think, go for 2 there. They're just going to kick the extra point. Because it's the difference of being a 4.5 point game. They're going to just kick the extra point and say, we'll just go up by 4 instead of 5 and give ourselves hope on the back end. I hate the analytics of like, oh, it says you should go for it. Gruden said it best. He was like on a podcast or something. I was like, no one ever talks about the analytics of what happens when you don't make it.
Exactly.
Like how these points add up during a game. We saw it with the Rams, like against the Eagles. Hey, you missed an extra point. Guess what? Like, dude, that stuff came back to haunt you at the end of the game. I get it with snow and a bunch of other factors, but I think either it was Aikman or someone on one of the playoff games was just like, special teams is usually a huge factor because you miss a field goal here, miss an extra point here, you do stuff like that, dude, it costs you. And
I mean, even just turnovers, with the Washington game.
Turnovers killed Washington. That's what killed Detroit. Detroit couldn't keep up. Why? You throw
Jared
pick
Goff.
six. Yeah,
Period.
Jared
Period.
Goff.
Dot.
Like, it just, you can't, it's so difficult to overcome. Especially, everyone's going to go, well, they did it against the Texans. And I'm like, yes, but the Texans weren't, you know, the Commanders. They didn't have an offense that was just like humming. When you do that against a playoff team one game away from the Super Bowl, you're going to lose.
100%.
Like, you're just, you can't do it. So I still think what's nuts is yes, the Bills didn't turn the ball over. They did have some turnovers on downs. I hate that on a stat sheet because that never shows up as a turnover. That's a turnover. Like, if you fumbled it right there on that spot, the exact same outcome happened. You immediately gave the ball over to the other team.
Yep.
So my question now for you, as we're sort of getting towards the end of this, is what's your prediction? How do you see the game going? Not just I think this team wins, but break it down. What do you think?
Man, I feel like one of the veteran guys is going to have like a Plaxico Burress type catch or a Santonio Holmes type catch, because I do think this game's going to be close again. I mean, the both teams are too good, and their defenses, I would say, are pretty comparable. When you look at them on a spreadsheet, I think the defenses are both pretty comparable. The Chiefs have the continuity with Spags, but also, Fangio's cooking as well. Dude, it's so hard to bet on against the Chiefs. I mean, just like you said last year, and it's just like everybody. The problem is that we've lived long enough to see everybody let the Patriots die, and now everybody hates the Chiefs. But also at the same time, you've got to respect what they're doing. Like it or not, you could argue they're getting the calls or they're not. But let's go back to last week. The penalty calls were even. Like, if you go back and you look, the penalty calls in that game was completely even, and the NFL even issued damage control before it even started. Like, hey, we're going to be looking into more assisted help, with every penalty and whatnot. And we had an even game, and the Bills still could not beat the Chiefs. Like you said, they could not go up by get that 2-score lead. And the Chiefs were able to hang around just long enough. And, when you get players like Mahomes, who's honestly, creating his case, in my opinion, he's probably already in the Hall of Fame. The fact that the man's already got 3 Super Bowls, working on number 4, like he's already in the Hall of Fame. He's been there, man. Like that's the thing, is that I think we're going to see one of Mahomes' best games this season, just because, one, he hasn't really had any good games this season that I remember sit back and was really wowed about, because I think Andy's going to let the arsenal loose. So I would not be surprised if I saw a 2-score lead out of the Chiefs, in my opinion, and then bringing it down. Probably the end of the game is going to be 1 score.
And you think the Chiefs come out on top, or Eagles?
I think I'm going to stick with the Chiefs. The NFL has to get their money out of Taylor Swift. So, I hate to say it, but like the older we get, the more and more, you feel like there could be a script. I just hope they write in the Bears someday soon.
That ain't gonna happen. I can tell you that right now. Both teams, especially when you look at the schedules regular season, I would argue are pretty similar. Mm-hmm. Neither one was truly ever completely dominant during the season. They each have problems. They've each shown things that you don't like. In the playoffs, though, I would argue that the Eagles look more dominant than the Chiefs.
Yes.
They played, in my opinion, better competition as well. You sit back, you think, who have the Chiefs played? They played a Texans team that everyone was like, not the best. They knew, you know, they didn't have Stephon, they didn't have Tank Dell. They were really a Nico Collins show with a sophomore slump in CJ Stroud. They had some good players on defense, but it wasn't this defense that you saw from last year. I think a lot of people thought the Chiefs got a bye for 2 straight weeks.
Yeah.
Then they play the Bills. Wasn't the Ravens. Maul said it. Like, the Ravens were going to give the Chiefs the best chance to get beat before a Super Bowl. Why? Because the Ravens had a defense.
Yep.
Like, it was going to come down and play off Lamar. Could he be that difference? We didn't get to find out. So they played the Bills, who had a bad defense. Mahomes looked great. It was still close because the Chiefs aren't amazing. Then you look at the Eagles. It's like, do they beat the brakes off the Packers? Packers were not in that game the whole time. The next week against the Rams, I'd argue that the Eagles really had them beat. It wasn't until they're at the very end. It was almost like they thought they had the game won, and then Stafford was like, not yet. And if it hadn't been for the snow, they probably lose the game, just because it's like they took their foot off the gas after Saquon had that huge run. But at no point do I think that the Eagles weren't the best team on the field. And then last week, they blow out the Commanders. Everything in me, both from like a football guy and like as a fan, dude, I want the Eagles to win. Which, who would have ever thought that the entire nation would be like, man, I'm cheering for the Eagles. Like, that's not what America wants. But I'm with you. I can't pick against Mahomes. Dude, I can't pick against the Chiefs. I think last year especially really did it in terms of, it was a terrible Chiefs team in terms of performance for most of the year. And they got into the playoffs. Now, I think they looked far more dominant in the playoffs last year going into the Super Bowl than they do this year. Like, the Chiefs are beatable. They're very beatable. The Eagles should win this game. But I think it comes down to exactly what you said. And that's what I don't have faith in. Until Jalen Hurts has that game, which just goes all the way back to Alabama for me.
Yeah, I mean, it's the whole reason why I went to Oklahoma. You
had a chance against Georgia, and in that half they got pulled. And Tua ain't on the bitch. It's Kenny Pickett. I know he ain't gonna do it. So it's one of these ones where I haven't seen the potency of Hurts as I did 2 years ago. Like, 2 years ago, my man was like running force. Like, could not be stopped. I don't see that this year. Do we like? Is this the coming of it? Did they save it all? His rushes for a game against the Chiefs in the Super Bowl?
I mean, it also doesn't help that all the rumors are already leading to Kellen Moore being the next head coach of the Saints. So then, hey, look how bad the Lions looked. And Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn already had jobs the next day.
I get that. Kellen Moore is not a great offensive coordinator.
Yeah.
I'm here to, if you want a prediction for next year, Saints going to be trash. It's going to be the Aints. It's coming.
Yeah, it's because they're still bred in the cap.
Dude,
we talked about it in the season.
Yes. I go back to what Saban said as a little break to this, since you won't bring it up. When they were like, Saban, why did you leave Miami? He's like, we didn't have a QB. We were the oldest team in the league, and we were bad in draft capital and bad in the cap. And they're like, why did you take it? And he was like, because I was an idiot. Like, I thought I could change it. Yeah. And I look at the Saints and you go, you don't have a quarterback. You have Carr, who can't stay healthy and has never proven to be the guy. You have a very old team. Kamara's old. Cam Jordan's old. Like, you traded Lattimore because he was old. Like, the entire team's old. And you have the worst cap of any NFL team. And you expect Kellen Moore to come in there and change things? Dude, the Saints will get beat by the Panthers next year. Twice. Like, the Panthers will not be the laughing stock of that division. It will be the Aints. It, I've been wrong before, but this one I feel pretty confident in. That is a recipe for disaster. And it also goes back to why these two teams are here. Like, you think about it. Like, dude, they've drafted exceptionally well.
Yeah,
I know that
yeah.
I know the Bears want to go get Trey Smith, but here's a guy that fell in the draft, was a star in college at Tennessee. The Chiefs pick up, and dude's played lights out. He's going to get a huge contract if he leaves Kansas City. They go get Xavier Worthy. They go pick up Kareem Hunt from his house, and my man looks like he hasn't missed a down. Like, they go get Hollywood. They go get D-Hop. They have Gray at tight end, even though you have Kelsey. Like, they have guys.
Yeah.
And on defense, they figure out how to lose their number one corner last year and immediately replace him. Like, and the Eagles, same as them. Like, dude, you traded a first round pick for AJ Brown. Nailed it. You went out and signed the best free agent last year, Saquon. Like, there's a reason these two teams are in the Super Bowl and other teams aren't. But in terms of who wins it, until I see Jalen Hurts be that guy that I've always wanted to see him be, I'd love to see Jalen get that natty. You know, in terms of a Super Bowl, I'd love to see Saquon win one.
Yeah.
And AJ.
Well, and what a story, man. Like, the first year out of the struggle, out of New York, and now you're playing for a Super Bowl. Like, it just goes to show the caliber that he was and just how much he carried that New York Giants team for 7 seasons.
I think
when he wasn't hurt.
Yeah. I will say, I think if Saquon, as long as it's not huge, because the only thing that like makes you want to say, oh, I can see him getting beat is if he ripped off like 270-yarders, and that's what had him over 200. But I think if he has over 200, his longest rush is only like 25 yards, Eagles win this game. Like, if the Eagles can do what James Cook did, which is have 6.5 yards a carry, Eagles win this game. Dude, I wouldn't stop putting it in the belly of my backs the entire game. Just like I think what your coach said. Dude, if we're gaining more than 3 yards a carry, feed them. Feed them. Wear that on this defense. Make it so they have to bring a safety in the box. They have to bring Reed down, and then we'll take our shots with A.J. Brown and Devontae and Dallas Goedert. That's how the Eagles win. If they can run the football and make it so the Chiefs are like, we don't have an answer for you running, they should win the game. Problem is, I just can't bet against the three-peat.
Here's the real question. I was kind of thinking about this. He's got 1 year left on his contract. If they do win, do you think Travis retires?
Yes.
Yeah, I do too. Yeah.
Andy Reid's gone too.
Yeah, I agree.
Which,
because I mean, Andy Reid was almost gone last year.
We have time to expound upon this, which is, I think, a key argument. A lot of people, if the Chiefs win, I think a lot of people are going to say that he's the greatest of all time in Mahomes, which I'm like, nope, he's not there yet. I get that gives him 4. Yeah. Brady still has 7.
Checks.
The other big thing for Brady is he won without Belichick, and people forget Brady beat Mahomes.
Yeah, and he was getting murdered as well in the early 2000s.
Yeah. Having to watch Mahomes win without Reed and without Kelsey, because you think about all the guys that Brady had in one, just, I mean, name another guy on the roster besides Gronk and Edelman, like, that year.
Well, I mean, yeah, before Edelman was Welker.
And I don't even think he won one with Welker.
Yeah.
That was the year that they had Randy, and they went undefeated.
Amendola.
Yeah. And then you go back in the early, it's Branch. But they didn't have this slew of guys, which is nuts because the Chiefs are sort of similar. But I do think that if they win 3 straight, the idea of them being like, let's run it back for 4, don't get me wrong, that's what they're going to say.
Oh, yeah,
but I think
sells tickets.
But Reed's, I just don't see Andy Reid or especially Kelsey. Dude, 3 in a row, in 4 total, I'm done, man. Yeah. Like, he's clearly lost a step. He's still one of the best playing in the game right now, but I will agree with you. You put on film 3 years ago to present day, it's not the same Travis Kelce.
100%. Like that,
So,
he hardly had. I think maybe he only had one game over 100 yards this season. Like out of 17. Like that's not a stat that you remember of Travis Kelce.
which I can already tell you who the next head coach will be.
Matt Nagy.
No,
Good.
Spag.
Oh, you think he'll step up?
Yes. That's the easiest answer.
Mm-hmm.
They'll probably keep Matt Nagy as offensive coordinator. Spags will fill the role of head coach because he's already done it once. And I get Nagy's done it as well, but I feel like if anyone was going to leave them that they really need to stay, it's Spags. You can afford to lose Nagy. You can go get
100%.
If Bellamy's going to be the running back coach, you can always bring back Bellamy to be the offensive coordinator. Like,
hey, he's my running backs coach now. Leave my man alone.
y'all got to find another running back.
Checks.
So, Bears need help. We'll get into that.
Dude, what about the other Super Bowl drama that happened this week? Myles Garrett won out, dude. Hot news.
I mean, yet again, it's like talking about the Saints. Yeah, where did the Browns go wrong? Well, it was that they had Baker Mayfield, and you decided to go trade for Deshaun Watson and give him guaranteed money.
Under investigation.
Yes. And you let Baker go, which I think everyone in the world can admit right now, terrible deal.
100%.
And with the whole Lakers, Donich, and everything, I just sort of sit back. I go, the worst trade in history for the NFL. Can you tell me one that's worse than the Watson trade?
Yeah, I mean, Russ still played out because he still played.
Yeah, but I don't think anything compares to Watson. Because Watson, you paid him fully guaranteed money. At least Russell, you could, when he got traded, people were like, I really can't believe the Seahawks did that. Like, it sort of worked its way out there at the end, but it wasn't like Russell was under investigation for sexual assault of like 33 for Bill Cosby and women.
Yeah,
like, it wasn't this like huge scandal. Myles Garrett went out. His whole statement I thought was true. It's like, I love it, but I didn't come here to go to Pro Bowls. I came here to win a Super Bowl.
Exactly.
And I want to go to some place that wants to win a Super Bowl.
Yep.
It's now just the problem is that when you look at it from the sense of what the Browns are going to want compared to what a Super Bowl contending team is willing to give up, that's difficult.
You know who's got the money?
Who?
The Bears, baby. We need another edge.
Well, the problem is you have said it so many times in our chat that if I bring out these receipts of where you're like, well, Ryan Poles had to work out of all those years that we traded for Khalil Mack and gave up all that draft capital.
You're right, but then you see the nice new shiny car.
Well, if you think that Poles is going to put the team in a similar position, I just don't see it happening.
Mm-hmm.
Like, a team that does want it, not a Super Bowl contender, but they have money. It's the Panthers
and Patriots.
Like, Patriots, maybe. Another team that's always been there. And like, I could see he, to me, as a Pittsburgh Steeler, like, I can see that. Put him on the opposite side of TJ and just say, wreck house.
Yeah.
We just got to go find a quarterback now, which if I'm Pittsburgh, I go pay Aaron Rodgers. That's my solution. You pay Aaron Rodgers. You go get some offensive. You go trade for Cooper Kupp. Go trade for Myles Garrett. You pull in Aaron Rodgers. We know that Tomlin can make a team 500 and get them to the playoffs.
That's true.
So
Aaron gets that playoff bonus.
You add a few, you add a few pieces. I think they're there, but we'll see. So, anything else before we wrap it up?
No, man. Really looking forward to the commercials more so than the game, but we'll see.
We'll see. If Saquon has 200 in the first half, then I'm sure we'll be celebrating.
Yeah, that's true. And like the worst part is that over the last decade, the commercials just continue to get worse and worse. There's like one funny one. Dude, I feel like when we were younger, they were just gold, just pure gold.
Nothing will ever top in my
Real,
mind.
real men of genius.
No, Terry Tate, offense linebacker.
Oh yeah.
Dude, Terry Tate, that's a long distance call. Doug, just drilling people. Dude, that will forever be etched in my. I still remember that because that was the Bucks versus the Raiders for Gruden. And I remember watching that, and I remember I saw that, and I told that was like in the infancy of YouTube. We had dial-up internet at the house. I had to go sit and dial up, wait for like 4 minutes for this to show my dad the commercial because he missed it. It was just like, dude, this is one of the greatest commercials of all time. That, and another really good one that came out a few years ago is that NFL 100 where Marshawn grabs the cake.
Yeah.
That one that's probably the best NFL one I've ever seen.
Yeah, they did pretty good. Wrecking that ballroom.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
And all the start, Jim Brown, Buckus, a bunch of guys that have passed on now, but dude, that was a heavy hitting crowd. That and Peyton, they're like, you still got it. And he's like, nah, man, that hurt. I loved it. So, all right, well, post Super Bowl, we'll get a Super Bowl recap, and then we'll talk about the off season as we get into that and sort of what you guys can expect out of the Football Talk Squadron before next season. But we do appreciate you guys for tuning in. Thanks for tuning in. We'll get back to you after the Super Bowl.